One familiar school-style milk carton can carry 180 milligrams sodium plus 26 to 27 grams sugar in a 250 milliliter serving, and most people never think of salt when the drink tastes sweet. Today, we are ranking 8 Canadian milk brands you must avoid at all cost, and 2 that are the better pick. This list comes from our 15-page research report. The real number one problem is a daily habit most people ignore. Stay until the end to find out if you are doing this. Number 8. Natrel Original, 2%. Did you know one 250 milliliter cup of Natrel 2% carries about 3 grams saturated fat? That sounds small until you pour it like it counts as water. Natrel Original 2% sits around 130 calories per cup with about 5 grams fat, and the sugar line comes from lactose, roughly 12 to 13 grams lactose per 250 milliliters in typical 1 to 2% milk. So the label looks normal, and it is normal, yet the routine around it can get loud fast. Health Canada spells out the core issue in one sentence: choosing foods with mostly unsaturated fat instead of saturated and trans fat helps lower heart disease risk. That quote is different when milk shows up at breakfast, then again in coffee, then again at night with cookies. Here is the part people miss. The numbers stack quietly. 2 big glasses plus a latte can land you near 9 grams saturated fat from milk alone, and that starts eating into the 5 to 6% calories saturated fat target used in Canadian heart health guidance. Supply management also shaped the habit loop. Canadians got stable vitamin D fortified milk since the 1970s, which helped wipe out rickets, and it also made milk every day feel like a default setting. The sneaky detail is timing. It hurts you through repetition, not through one glass. That repetition gets even easier when the jug gets bigger. Number 7. Beatrice 2%. A 250 milliliter serving of Beatrice. 2% lists about 3.5 grams saturated fat and 90 milligrams sodium. So why do so many fridges treat it like a free refill? This milk sits around 130 calories with 12 grams sugar and 9 grams protein per cup. And the label looks familiar enough that nobody counts pours. The real shift happens because Beatrice 2% often comes in big jugs, and big jugs train your brain to stop measuring. Statistics Canada shows how Canadian milk habits flipped. In 1960, Canadians had about 72.8 liters per person of full-fat 3.25% milk available each year, and by 2015, that dropped to 10.1 liters, while 2% partly skimmed milk became the default. That long trend moved normal milk into the same lane Beatrice dominates. Heart and Stroke Canada keeps it blunt. Saturated fat raises bad LDL cholesterol. When this jug becomes the go-to drink for cereal, coffee, and quick snacks, the risk comes from frequency, because the same serving repeats over and over. Here is the quiet catch. Sodium per cup feels tiny, yet Canadians average about 3,500 milligrams sodium per day, so small sources still add weight inside an already overloaded total. The lesser-known detail is the packaging effect. The jug makes extra pours feel invisible. Now watch what happens when milk gets marketed like gym gear. Number 6. Natrel Plus 2%. Natrel Plus 2% delivers 18 grams of protein in a 250 milliliter cup, double regular 2% milk. That single number makes people drink more than they planned. Some nutrition tables put it around 160 calories per cup, with 5 grams fat, about 3 grams saturated fat, and roughly 9 grams sugar, plus a big calcium number like 550 milligrams calcium in that same serving. On paper, it looks like an easy upgrade. More protein, lower sugar than regular milk, and no extra effort. Here is the real-world switch. High-protein milk changes behavior. People start using it, shakes, smoothies, and bigger cereal bowls that turn 1 cup into 3 without a second thought. 3 cups in a day means 54 grams protein coming from milk alone, before food even enters the picture. Natrel itself pushes the idea hard, calling it 100% Canadian milk with twice the protein, and that message nudges people to treat it like a daily tool. That can help someone training, yet it can clash with moderation advice given to people managing kidney disease or diabetes, where clinicians often push restraint with concentrated protein sources. There is also a calcium angle, because people prone to kidney stones sometimes monitor calcium patterns, and a product like this makes it very easy to hit high numbers without trying. The hidden detail is that protein milk can turn into all-day sipping. Ultrafiltered milk sells the same promise with a cleaner label. Before we move on, remember to subscribe so you don't miss any shocking Canadian product insights. Number 5. Nielsen/Joya 2%. Ultrafiltered. Nielsen Ultrafiltered 2% promotes 25% less lactose sugar and about 18 grams protein per cup. That combo makes people assume the downsides got filtered out too. Similar Joya-style panels often land around 150 calories per 250 milliliters, with 5 grams fat, about 3 grams saturated fat, roughly 9 grams sugar, and around 80 milligrams sodium. So what actually goes wrong? First, protein density changes the day. 2 large glasses can hit 36 grams protein, and that stacks on top of whatever you eat. For people with kidney disease or diabetes, many clinicians push moderation with concentrated protein sources, because higher intakes can complicate management plans. Second, shelf behavior shifts. Joya marketing leans into pantry convenience with no refrigeration required, and that is a big deal, because pantry staples get used constantly in coffee, baking, and late-night mugs that feel harmless. Hypertension Canada urges keeping sodium around 2,000 milligrams per day to help control blood pressure. And while this milk does not look salty, the point is cumulative load. When a product becomes effortless to use, it shows up more often than people realize, and that is how small numbers become steady numbers. The lesser-known detail is shelf-stable milk removes friction, and friction is what limits habits. Now flip the problem. Whole milk does the opposite by boosting fat fast. Number 4, Lucerne 3.25%. Lucerne 3.25% commonly sits around 8 grams fat per 250 milliliter serving. That one stat tells you why it feels rich and why it adds up fast. A cup often lands near 160 calories with about 12 grams carbs and 9 grams protein. So the lactose stays similar to lower fat milk, yet the fat climbs, and much of that fat is saturated. Toronto Public Health uses a clear label here. Saturated fat is an unhealthy fat because it raises bad cholesterol and increases heart disease risk. Here is how it plays out in real kitchens. Whole milk tastes better in coffee, better in cereal, better in sauces, so people use more of it, and they use it more often. 2 big bowls of cereal plus a latte built on whole milk can push a heavy dairy fat load before lunch, and that is before cheese or restaurant food shows up. There is also a historical angle. Full-fat milk used to be the norm, and then public health messaging pushed toward lower-fat options over time. Choosing 3.25% today can pull that older pattern back in, especially when the carton sits front and center in the fridge. Yes, you still get protein and fortification, yet those benefits do not cancel the fat math when the serving repeats daily. The quiet detail is taste consistency. Richer milk makes one more feel reasonable. That habit gets even stronger when the same fat level comes in a big family jug. Number 3, Beatrice 3.25%. Beatrice 3.25% comes in around 160 calories with 8 grams fat per cup. When that shows up in a family jug, the numbers turn into a pace problem. This milk also carries about 12 grams carbs and 9 grams protein per 250 milliliters, yet the issue people feel later is saturated fat load over time. Alberta Health Services links high saturated fat eating patterns with higher LDL cholesterol and higher cardiovascular risk when that pattern dominates a diet. The branding pulls in the other direction. The carton pushes excellent source of calcium and vitamin D, and it leans on the 100% Canadian milk identity. That pride connects to supply management, which locked in during the early 1970s, supporting stable quality and stable pricing across Canada. Then real life takes over. A big jug can vanish in 3 or 4 days in a heavy milk household, and that brings back the kind of full fat intake levels public health efforts tried to reduce over decades. Add cheese, ice cream in takeout, and saturated fat becomes the base layer of the day. A couple big glasses can burn through your saturated fat limit fast. A few heavy glasses can chew through a big share of that without feeling like a bad choice. Here's what most people miss, that the jug makes portion size feel like a household decision, not a personal one. Premium packaging takes that same fat load and makes it feel like an upgrade. Number 2, Natrel 3.25% fine filtered. Natrel 3.25% fine filtered still sits around 8 grams fat and about 160 calories per 250 milliliters. So the premium look starts with the same heavy baseline. Fine filtering can improve shelf life and keep taste consistent. Yet it does not remove saturated fat or lactose. The black and white carton and higher price signal better, and people respond to signals more than they admit. That is where the trouble starts. Premium products get used more. Cappuccinos become daily. Hot chocolate becomes a habit. Creamy sauces show up more often. And every extra use feels justified because it feels like a quality choice. The nutrition pitch supports that feeling, with dairy brands describing whole milk as packed with essential nutrients like calcium, protein, and vitamins A and D. Those nutrients are real, yet the trade stays real too. Health Canada and heart health groups keep steering people toward unsaturated fats and more plant-based proteins because saturated fat heavy patterns drive cardiovascular risk higher. When premium whole milk becomes the default, it becomes easier to overshoot without noticing. The hidden detail is psychological. The word premium can shrink your guilt and grow your portion. Now take whole milk, then multiply it by sheer popularity. Number 1, Dairyland, 3.25%. Dairyland 3.25% sits around 160 calories and 8 grams fat per 250 milliliters. So why rank it number 1 when it looks like other whole milk? Because scale beats everything. And this carton is a default for a huge chunk of shoppers. Heart and stroke materials warn that eating too much saturated fat and trans fat can raise blood cholesterol and push up risks of heart disease, stroke, and even diabetes. Now add the national context. Some estimates put Canada among countries with relatively high per capita milk consumption, roughly 188 to 207 kilograms per person each year. That means a whole lot of people build daily routines around this exact full-fat profile, and routines decide outcomes. Then the diet backdrop makes it worse. Whole milk does not bring massive sodium, yet it takes up daily room, calories, and fat budget. And that leaves less flexibility to fix the bigger problems later in the day. So the top spot is about influence. The carton shapes habits at population scale, and habits beat intentions. The lesser-known detail is that nothing feels wrong in the moment, and that is the trap. The twist is that the same aisle offers a cleaner swap. Now moving on to the milks you should be buying. Better pick number 2, Beatrice 1%. Beatrice 1% drops to about 100 calories per 250 milliliters with roughly 1.5 grams saturated fat. That one change can cut a big chunk of daily saturated fat without changing your routine. The panel still keeps 12 grams sugar, about 90 milligrams sodium, and 9 grams protein, so it stays familiar in cereal, coffee, and baking. Beatrice positions it as a low-fat option with added vitamins A and D, and that is why families stick with it. The taste stays close enough, and the poor habits stay the same. Alberta Health Services notes that foods high in saturated fat raise LDL levels and recommends keeping saturated fat to around 9% or less of total energy for cardiovascular health. That guideline sounds huge until you realize milk is one of the easiest levers, because people use it daily without thinking. This swap also works because it does not demand perfection. You can keep your favorite breakfast, keep your coffee, keep your cooking style, and still cut the part that pushes cholesterol math in the wrong direction. The quiet detail is speed. People usually adjust to the taste quickly once it becomes the default. If you want even less baggage, one carton strips the fat out entirely. Better pick number 1, Lucerne Skim 0%. Lucerne Skim milk sits around 90 calories per cup with 0 grams fat and 9 grams protein. That is the cleanest fat math you can get while staying in regular cow's milk. You still get lactose carbs, Yet the saturated fat hit disappears, and the standard Canadian vitamin D fortification remains. For anyone tracking LDL, that matters because saturated fat is the part tied most directly to the cholesterol warning in mainstream public health guidance. Toronto Public Health explains that saturated and trans fats raise bad cholesterol and increase heart disease risk, and replacing them with healthier fats helps move numbers the right way. Skim milk does not add healthy fats, yet it stops pushing saturated fat into your day, which gives you more room to use better fats elsewhere, like olive oil, nuts, or fish. This is also a low-effort move for people managing hypertension risk or family history, because it removes fat calories from a drink people often consume automatically. The hidden detail is that skim forces your taste buds to stop chasing creamy, and that can change what you crave later in the day. If any milk on this list is sitting in your fridge, tell me which brand and how often you buy it. Tap the next video on your screen, because the next label trick is even sneakier, and once you see it, you will not unsee it. Remember to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss a single Canadian product insight.